Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rumcast. This is the one, the only podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. Today on the show, we have Kate Perry from La Maison Velier, a veteran, and Brett Kozinn from PM Spirits, his first time on the show, and they are both treating us, Will, to a really extra special treat,
Yes.
both for us and hopefully for people listening, where we get to experiment with tasting through potential forthcoming Flag Series rums. It was really cool, Will.
Yeah, this was the kind of thing. I think you texted me one day and you were like, "Hey, can I call you?" Which, it isn't something that never happens, but usually
Yeah.
when it happens, it's something, interesting to talk about.
Remarkable.
Yeah, and you called and said that Kate had reached out to us on Instagram and presented this idea of she had several rums that could be potential Flag Series rums, and what if we all just hopped on Zoom, got Brett into the mix and tasted through them and helped them kind of like pick out what should be the next Flag Series rums. And I was like, damn, this sounds like an idea that we would have come up with and been like, well, yeah, we would love to do this, but they wouldn't want us to do this with them, Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was just presented to us. So it was an awesome opportunity. We've talked about the Flag Series for the last few years since it debuted now on the podcast. Always a solid, really great lineup of rums that they've brought to the States in recent years. And obviously they have releases in Europe as well. And just the chance to get to try ones that are potential Flag Series and maybe have a little bit of a hand in picking out which ones end up making the cut was really, really cool. So excited to do that.
The thing I did not tell you, Will, is when I called you that I had already told her yes. I said yes, when and where. Then I felt like I had to call you to just make sure that you knew that this was going to be a thing that was going to happen.
It's not the type of idea I would expect either of us to have to run by the other at this point. But so yeah, super cool. Excited for people to hear that. Before we get there, a quick story that I wanted to share about the rums of our own that we recently released, the Rumcast Reserve rums. So in my day job, the team that I'm on, my manager sends out kind of a weekly update to the rest of the company on what we're doing. And at the end of the update, she likes to share a little fun fact about individuals on the team. She'll pick one out every week. And she messaged me on Slack last week and was like, "Hey, would it be cool if I let people know you have a rum podcast? Like that's a fun fact about you." And she was like, maybe I could mention the rums that you guys put out there because she and I have talked about these privately and stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, of course. I think I'm a little more on the shy side of things when it comes to stuff like this. But if people ask me about it or whatever, I'm always happy to talk about it. I just never want to be the guy that's like forcing his podcast on everybody.
Yeah, right.
Like nobody likes that guy.
Agreed.
So anyway, I was like, sure. And through the course of the day, I had some people reach out on Slack. I have a remote job, so this is all, on Slack, not in person. And people just like, oh, that's so cool, talking about rum and stuff, which was nice. It gave an opportunity to talk about rum with people. And I had one coworker on my team who just sent a screenshot of a receipt of the Mauritius Rumcast Reserve.
Nice.
And my first thought was, this is super cool. My second thought was, I wish you had consulted me first because I might have told you to buy the Guyana instead.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to come out and say that, right? Because I don't want to set the expectation to be like, oh, this rum's going to be too strange or, too whatever.
Strong.
For you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because that one is 63% cast strength. The other one is like 50% also cast strength, but just much lower ABV, much more approachable. It's the one that I typically taste people on if they are newer to the rum category, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so he says that recently his sister was getting onto him and saying that like he should be in like more into rum because it's great. And I was like, well, your sister sounds like a cool person.
Yeah.
And he was like, she did like a whole flight tasting for me of like, several rums that I tried and I really enjoyed them. And I said, like, what stood out to you the most? What, do you remember which one you really enjoyed?
Oh,
and
boy.
he said it was Zacapa 23. And so no judgment whatsoever, because that's a
Yeah,
gateway rum for a lot of people.
it is.
And
It
I
is.
didn't want to start off on the foot of like, well, by the way, did you know that that has additives in it?
I can't help myself. I usually
Yeah,
do.
like if we were in person, I might say that, but this is a Slack
Oh,
conversation, so you
yeah.
don't get
Yeah.
like the body language and everything.
Right. Right.
Um, but what it made me nervous about was that he ordered the 63% Mauritius cane juice, cask strength rum. However, he posted a picture today of the rum poured neat. I
Okay.
said,
Oh, wow.
what did you think?" And he said that he thought it was really good. So,
Hey.
I think it went over well. It didn't come off as like just
Lip
fake.
service.
And like he
Yeah.
voluntarily posted it and everything. He said his husband really enjoyed the rum as well. So like, I think it went over well. He's also a bourbon guy, so he's used to drinking like
Ah,
higher
see, that's a
strength.
key. Yeah.
Right. Like he's not totally new to cask strength spirits.
Yeah.
And so that was a bit of relief when I learned that he enjoyed the rum. Also, just a reminder that like just because someone likes Zacapa 23 doesn't mean they won't like rum that doesn't have additives in it too.
It's true.
So anyway, just a fun moment and also one of the more unique sides of being on the other side of the table and bottling something ourselves, that nervousness that you get when someone tries your own rum and pays their own hard-earned money for it and everything. You
Yeah.
feel a sense of responsibility, I think.
I agree.
But yeah, it was good to see that he enjoyed the Mauritius rum.
I'm glad you had that experience. I've had a number of my coworkers that have also voluntarily picked up the rum,
Yeah.
and I'd like you will usually say you should try the Guyana unless you're an experienced, spirits drinker. But to your exact point, there's some times where people just seem to love the Mauritius. There's
Yeah.
also other times where I've had non-rum drinkers try it and go, "It's great."
Yeah.
um, because they just don't use they're
Yeah.
not used to drinking cask strength spirits,
Yeah.
so you get both of that range. But yeah, so it's interesting to hear people talk about it. But I'm glad it went over. That's good. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I know you also are freshly back from Washington, D.C., where you got to hang out with some
Oh
of the
yeah.
D.C. rum rebels, a lot of Rumcast listeners in that rum group.
Yeah.
How did it go?
You
Any
know,
highlights?
there's a few rum groups in the United States right now that I think are just kicking ass, and I don't want to leave any out. But of course, I'm Florida Rum Society, so that's one of them. New York has the Long Island and the New York rum clubs that are doing really great things. Boston has some, and then I think the DC Rum Rebels. They have something special going on there. It's really great. I got to come to the monthly meetup. It was at somebody's house in DC, and there was probably 25, 30 people there when I got there. And I shit you not, Will, maybe 100 bottles on this
Nice.
island in the kitchen. It was a lot of bottles.
How do you
And
prioritize in that scenario? You can't try all 100 of
I
them.
know. So I was already leaning on them to say okay, what do I even try here? Because of course I had to be up early the next day as well for my thing that I was there for. Hashtag bring back Firefly. And so I was like, I can't get piss drunk here either. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to navigate here. So a lot of people that we know from the DC Rum Rebels that sometimes come to happy hours and things like that. Jordan, Ryan, Chris, Kyle, John, Tyler, and many others that were there were all really kind and awesome, and got to talk with them over drinking some really great rums. They tried, Will, to convert me into a Carony lover. They did fail.
They didn't. Oh, they didn't succeed. Come
They did not.
on.
They did not succeed. There was I think probably now the best Carony that I've ever had was there.
Okay.
So I found one that I could dig a little bit into, but it still wasn't. It's not my thing. It's not my favorite.
It's not your cup of tea.
Yeah, and then I think it was two others that still gave me the that rubber, whatever it is, and that I just doesn't go with me.
It's a feature,
Um,
not a bug.
yeah, okay. All right, if you say so. Some Savannah reunion rums that were aged were really nice. Some Foursquare Veliers. Kyle was trying to get me on some brandies and cognacs that he loves as well, which some of them were good and some of them not my thing. But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome thing to see that these type of meetups are happening in the country with rum lovers. And I love seeing that sense of community that they have. And I hope that other places are able to emulate that through other bottle shares and, just events, whatever it might be, wherever they live. I know there's been recently, we've had some emails from some people in the Great Lakes area, I think it is, and some other areas where they're trying to find other rum people to meet up. And I really encourage you to do that. Find, if you are heavy into rum, find your people. Put yourself out there a little bit. It is tough. Like Will has said, some of us are a little like apprehensive of maybe sharing some of that or oversharing, but it's a special thing when you can get together with a group that likes the same thing you do, and you bring all these different bottles and you get to enjoy it all. It was awesome. I'm really thankful that I got to experience that while I was there and appreciative to them.
Yeah. Shout out to the DC Rum Rebels. Drinking spirits together in person. It's a novel concept.
What a concept, yeah.
I know. Anyway, very excited for people to hear this episode. We taste through 7 rums, so these are all essentially candidates for the next Flag Series releases. Not a hard and fast number of how many could be selected, and we don't want to make any promises here because those options are still being weighed. But, the 4 of us try each rum. We discuss them. We actually rated them as well. John and I usually shy away from numerical ratings, I think, but it was kind of a useful tool to have in this exercise, just so you can truly rank 7 rums and which ones you like the most and things like that.
You almost have to.
Yeah. So what I can say is the next wave of Flag Series rums is going to be very much worth your time, regardless of what is selected. But the favorites that we coalesced around, really great. We should also mention that you, Brett, and myself were trying these completely blind, other than being able to see what was in the glass. We did not know the origin, the age, anything about them, and we did try to posit some guesses along the way. Kate revealed their identities to us at the end, which was its own great little mini conversation as we reacted to those. So very excited to hear what people think of this. Also, we recently released a bonus episode for our Patreon subscribers of the 2 of us tasting through the current Flag Series releases, the Vietnam 2018, Ghana 2020, and the Barbados 2011 from Foursquare. So if you're curious about those rums that are currently on shelves, you want to hear more thoughts about them, you can go to patreon.com/therumcast and subscribe and get that episode as well. But excited for people to hear this. Anything to add before we cut over to the episode, John?
No, the only thing that was really interesting was how we almost organically came up with a different way of rating rums. I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it was a fun little aside that kind of came out of some of this conversation that I think people will be interested in.
All right. With all that said, let's take a quick break and go over to the episode. All right, we are here with Kate Perry, the national manager of La Maison Velier in the U.S., and Brett Kozinn, project manager at PM Spirits, the dynamic duo now behind many of the releases you see coming from La Maison Velier, and Brett is behind or involved with many of the releases coming out of PM Spirits as well. And maybe a few weeks ago, Kate reached out to us with a really fun and surprising idea of La Maison Velier for the U.S. is going to do some Flag Series rums, and Kate has a bunch of samples, and what if we tasted them all together blindly and rated what our favorites were? So that is what we're doing on this episode. I'm very excited.
You know what would have been cooler, Kate? I just thought about this right now. Had you just blindly sent us 7 samples but said don't touch them, don't do anything with them, that would have been even more intriguing. I would have just opened this box that says do not open, do not touch. Call Kate Perry at 5:30 on whatever date. Next time.
But I would have had to do it like a serial killer collage note, cutting out the letters.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, this is like Unabomber vibes, I feel like, actually.
This message will self-destruct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll remember that for next time, guys.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the show, Kate, and welcome, Brett, for the first time on the Rumcast. Somehow we were just talking before we hit record that I think we've been emailing for 6 or 7 years now, and this is the first time we've been on a Zoom together. So huge milestone for the Rumcast. I'm really excited. So we have 7 samples. Before we dive into these, I did want to ask, just like, how did you get to this point with the samples? And to be clear for everyone listening, Kate knows what these are. John, myself, and Brett don't know the identities of these rums. We just know the ABVs, and we know that they're presumably all aged because none of them are clear in color. So, but how did you get to the point of having these 7 particular samples, Kate?
Yeah. So there was a lengthy email exchange that happened as everything in this world begins. We just launched not too long ago the 3rd release of Flag Series in the US market. So the first release was the Guyana Port Cask and that Trinidad, which was like fire across the country. That thing sold out so quick.
So good.
Yeah,
The
so
Trinidad
good.
was so good.
I think that really that bottle really helped draw attention to the Flag Series. I mean, the packaging on the series is great. I
Yeah.
love the sort of far off prominences that Flag Series loves to discover. The second release was Jamaica, Fiji, Cambodia. The third release just came out with Ghana from Africa, which I was really excited about. The Vietnam. John's got some Cambodia in his hand. And then Barbados. So in sort of getting a look at what the next range will be, because I mean, as you guys know, since you're bottlers now, these things take so much longer than you think they're going to.
Yep.
So thinking about what's coming next, I had some exchanges with my colleague Chris in our French office talking about what we had in stock, kind of looking through. He sent me a long list and I basically X'd out anything that we'd first done before in the US. I didn't want to there were some really cool things maybe from Jamaica or something or Fiji, which I love, but I didn't want to have a repeat thing. The range is too young. So that was my first sort of, selection process was anything we've done before, get out of here. And then looking just at the things that were left, what I thought could be interesting for the market. So I narrowed it down to these 7, and Chris sent me these bottles. And then I was sitting there looking at these bottles thinking, well, usually I just sort of taste these in my own echo chamber and go through and pick the things that I think are good, but I don't do it blindly because I have them in front of me. So I also, see what I like the liquid of, what I think is kind of interesting, and then what I also think the source of origin could be interesting for the US market, what we don't have a lot of, what feels exciting. I think the Southeast Asian rum scene has so much to offer right now. So I've really been enjoying delving into that. I love that we've had a Cambodia, a Vietnam, and a Thailand release with Shakara.
Yeah.
I have a big, soft spot in my heart for Southeast Asia. So that's just kind of a personal love of mine. And so typically I will just taste these by myself, choose what is coming to the US market, talk with my team in France, and then bottle it. And then I was like, well, then I'll just send the rest of the samples to Brett and he can tell me if I did a good job or not. So this sort of came about because I was like, oh, I should just taste these with Brett. We're on a different sort of Venn diagram this year as PM is our importer. So it would make sense to make these decisions together. And I was like, we should just do this with the Rumcast guys because that would just be way much more fun. So as you mentioned, I know what they all are. I have the bottles in front of me. I sent you each a little slice of each of them. So you have them in tasting order of ABV, and the ABVs are written on your samples.
Yeah.
Yes. So 1 through 7, lowest ABV to highest ABV made the most sense to me.
Yeah, I feel like that's the order John and I usually go in. And then sometimes we'll make exceptions of like if we have a lineup and there's like a high ester Jamaican rum that isn't the highest ABV necessarily, we might still end up doing that one last just because like they can be so powerful.
That makes sense.
I think ABV makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I I may have done that, but also to know I haven't tasted these either. So I do know
Yeah.
what they are, but I haven't tasted through them. So there might be a weird order here depending on the taste and profile of one.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
I'm of the school of thought when you're tasting this many things, there actually really isn't a correct order. There's so many times when I'm pouring so many things for so many people, and it's like, oh, should we do this or that? And between ABV and flavor profile and age on something, I sometimes I'd rather just let's just taste them, you know?
Let's just dive in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, should we start with sample number one? We should also add, by the way, we've made the decision to not. A lot of times when John and I do blind tastings, we'll kind of try to guess what it is as we're tasting. So we're going to try to just comment on maybe flavor profile and our impressions of the rum, but without specifically trying to guess, this came from distillery X in Japan or wherever.
Right.
Because we're trying not to influence each other's impressions, since at the end of this, we are going to kind of rank what they are. And I think, John and I don't know, Brett, if you plan to kind of write down any guesses you have along the way, but I'm going to be writing some down, and I'm sure they will all be wrong. But it's still fun to give it the old college try. So, we're ready to start with sample one?
Out of curiosity, how are you guys approaching tasting these? Are you pouring them one at a time, or did you pour them into a flight in front of you?
We differ on this a lot. John, do you want to start?
Yeah, so for me, I don't usually pour them out all ahead of time. I'm usually one or two. It depends on how many we're tasting in the flight, but a lot of times for me, when I get a sample, I take an immediate kind of hit of it just to get the sense of what it is, even like out of the mail, and I'm like, ooh, cool, and try it real quick, and then I come back to it later. With these, I did not do that, so they've just been opened now, just to be clear, so this will be my very first impression as well. And, like I said, I just do one or two at a time rather than trying to do all of them. Will, I think you differ on how you do it.
I'm really bad at multitasking, so if I were trying to like open, little sample bottles and pour and stuff while we were doing this, it would be a disaster. So yeah, I have 7 glasses out. I put them on a little tray in my kitchen. I pour all the samples. I bring those upstairs into my office here. So these have all been sitting out for about an hour now, I would say.
I just embrace the disaster.
Wait, how do y'all do it, Kate and Brett?
I'm with you. I mean, I just poured them over the past 5 minutes or so in my 7 glasses of 4 or 5 different shapes because I don't have 7 of the same glass of anything. It smells very good in here right now. Yeah. So I mean, depending on what it is, I'll maybe intentionally pour ahead of time to let stuff open up a little bit. At the same time, I feel like that's one of those variables that you can also just obsess over, and it's better to just taste stuff. You can always taste stuff again. But it's so easy to stress over all the variables and then never wind up tasting something or taking 30 minutes to get it set up. So I've got them all poured right in front of me. But it's good to have different approaches, all tasting the same thing.
I agree.
See what differs.
I'm realizing that I only have one glass in front of me and I should grab some more. So
Go
onwards. You guys go ahead.
So this is Rum 1, 53.4.
Yeah, that's all we know about it, 53.4% ABV, and this is what it looks like in the glass. This is Will from the future popping in to reveal the identity of this mystery rum sample that we're about to try so you can know what it is as we taste it blindly. So this first sample is a 10-year-old rum from the island of Reunion.
Of course, since we said we're not going to harp on provenance too much, I'm like, I feel like I know what it is.
Same.
Totally wrong. It's like, oh yeah, this is this is from Jamaica and it's from Panama or something.
Yeah. It's hard not to do that though, right? Like we'll hold back like we said on until later, but it's hard not to start associating. So that's part of it.
It makes sense, I think, for rum. I mean, the same way with wine, where geography is such a pretty crucial component to production style and often flavor profile. I mean, Scotch too, in a sense. But then you get the things that really throw you, for a loop, which are the fun things where you taste something and you think it's peated Isla Scotch and it's not, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Speaking of wine, this one smells very wine-like to me.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to say the same thing. That's funny that you said that.
And it reminds me a little bit of some like younger Armagnac too, which often is kind of a little bit of that winey thing, like stemmy and earthy.
Yep. The
Yeah.
the first note I put down was grapey or like winey somehow. Yes, or cognac or Armagnac. Yep.
So at least we
I
all know probably we're tasting the same thing, and Kate didn't mix up the labels.
that's a good thing.
Always good to know.
I'm getting something like herbal and kind of mentholy a little bit with it. But I see the kind of winey kind of vibe as well.
There's an Armagnac in particular this reminds me of. It's I sound like I'm like shilling for our other producers. Domaine d'Aronson, Armagnac producer, and they reintroduced a bunch of grapes that aren't grown really anymore. They call them ghost grapes in Gascony, and they started growing them, and they made some Armagnac from them. And the release of it is it's on the younger side compared to some of the much older, long-aged Armagnac. But that always, I'm not going to say it because, well, actually, this isn't geography, but that Armagnac always reminded me of kind of like medium-aged rum agricole. And this has a lot of the same similar kind of flavor notes.
This does feel like a cane juice rum.
Yeah, I agree. And the first thing I wrote was like aged agricole. And I'll use that as shorthand for just from cane juice, so nobody in any comments says it's not agricole because it's from wherever. Because I'll be that person in the comments too, but I'm talking, so you know.
There's another origin I have in mind right now that is not associated with cane juice, which is interesting, but I don't want to throw it out there just yet. I already know it's wrong as well, but like, it's gonna be
I
interesting.
honestly I don't have a particular origin in mind for this. Sometimes I'll go straight to a specific distillery or country, and I'm really wide open on this one. I won't say it's completely unfamiliar, but it's not bringing something to mind immediately for me.
Yeah,
I really like
good.
how
It's interesting.
perfumey it is.
Yeah.
It's very very floral.
Floral.
Especially
not
on the
in
palate
like
for
a-
me.
Sorry?
I said especially on the palate. I don't know if y'all
Yeah.
have started drinking yet, but
Yeah, it's like floral on the palate. Like
uh-huh.
I mean, it's kind of winey like that too, like almost, like an off-dry Riesling or a floral Sauvignon Blanc is like floral on the palate like that. I like how winey this is, and it follows through onto the palate too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. When whoever said wine first, the first place my mind went was like a white wine of some
Yeah.
type, which I'm not as educated in wine as other people on this call are, but it definitely went that more like floral, a little bit like brightness, a little bit.
Like it almost has like an eau de vie or almost a gin-like character to it, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
It's a really interesting rum. On the palate, I mentioned menthol on the nose. I get like this strong spearmint note on the palate as well. Really, really approachable. Like 53.4 ABC, 53.4 ABV. It's very drinkable. Lots of flavor. Complex. I'm a fan of this one. John, where does it sit on the John Gulla floral note tolerance scale?
And Will's talking about I am sensitive to that a little bit more, and so often I lean away from it. It does give me a little bit of almost like IPA vibes as well, almost hoppy in some ways, which is interesting because I actually push away from IPAs usually if I'm ever going to drink a beer either. So for me, this had a more sweetness on the nose and a levity to it. It almost like dances a bit for the nose, whereas the palate far less sweet than I anticipated. So that's the only disconnect I have right now with it. I do think it's well made, and there's some stuff to explore on that kind of savory side with it. But I usually want a little bit more sweetness rounding it up.
The IPA thing you said, I was thinking like I was thinking citrus, and then I realized that it's like grapefruit, and it's actually like that resiny, grapefruity, hoppy
Yeah.
thing, all in that same kind of. It's like
Yep.
citrus when you only get essential oils and you don't get any sweetness from the fruit
Absolutely.
itself. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Resiny
pith.
is a great note for it. When y'all taste a rum like this, do you immediately start going to how easy or difficult will this be to sell?
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's impossible, like, not impossible to separate that, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is pretty. I think the question of how hard will this be to sell is also basically the same question as like how much will people enjoy this? Yeah, there are some things that you have to work a little harder to get a a store or whatever to bring it in, but when you have sort of when they taste it and it's that good, and the consumer is going to think it's that good too, that it's nice when that does the work for you. I think things can get more difficult in terms of how difficult something will be to sell when it's like, I don't know, if the price is crazy or super high, or if
Mm.
it's 85% ABV or something like that. Um, but also, these days we're regularly slinging 70% plus ABV rums. We have multiple of those in our portfolio. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I guess I definitely think about it, but I think there's probably also been times, at least with myself and at PM, where we've tasted something and we loved it, and we also said it's going to be really hard to sell, but that doesn't
Mm.
stop us,
Yeah.
because this is why we do what we do. I mean, we're the people who brought
Purveyors of
in,
geeky spirits, right?
yeah, yeah, and like we brought in two of the kind of very high octane Père Labat rums in 2022. I think the organic and the single plot. Those are both 70 plus ABV. Um,
Both
and
great.
they're so good. We asked them not to add any water. I think
Mm.
both kind of on the island and in Europe they got proof down maybe to 60 or something, and we were like, yeah, just leave it.
Yeah.
It certainly made it a bit more difficult to sell, but I think it also endears us and the brand and those brands and those rums to the people drinking it. You can add water if you want. Nobody stops you. So yeah, we think about it, but I don't think it's ever stopped me.
Yeah, I think particular with this range because they are single casks. I mean, we're looking at 250 bottles for the whole
Mm-hmm.
country on
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of willing to take a little bit more risk because I know someone's gonna love them. I hope there's more than 250 people in the USA that would be into it. But I totally agree with what Brett's saying. And I think also like whenever I talk about Hamden, I'm like, okay, when you're thinking of like kind of funky rums, you have to understand that we're just skewing this way all the way. Like
Mm.
where most distilleries stop is where Hamden begins. And that's also sort of the ethos of both PM Spirits and La Maison Velier, where we're just not shy of proof. We're not shy about flavor. We're both kind of known and celebrated for having weird, cool stuff. And that's our wheelhouse. So I think the people who are into weird, cool stuff expect that from us
Yeah.
and know that like we're where they can find that. So I would be a little bit more hesitant to bring in something too normal than too weird, you know. I would find it more hard to sell like a multi-column rum, for example, or something that was like really soft and approachable because that's just not like what we're known for, what our audience seeks us out for.
Mm-hmm.
The other factor is like we're operating off incomplete information right now, except Kate. So like, I wouldn't describe this rum as like a down the middle, um, super traditional rum profile, which could theoretically make it a little more difficult to sell. But at the same time, if it turns out to be like, some kind of off-profile rum from Foursquare or something, obviously that makes it easier to sell in some ways too. I
Yeah.
don't think that's
Yeah,
what it is,
totally.
but yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, with us would also be really pretty normal. Like we have the library releases coming this year and we
Yeah.
have some of the Foursquare LFT in the mix. And it's like cool. Like we love doing things that are outside the bounds of a particular distillery style. And if you look at like the Habitación Velier range, which is very different from Flag Series, of course, but that's sort of like a place where distilleries can like get outside their sandbox and offer something that like doesn't really fit into what they typically would do and typical distillery style, but they can release it as a collaborative release with Velier to say like, hey, here's something, weird that we want to share, but not in our official ranges because it doesn't really match that, but we think it's cool. so it can kind of have a home for like super geeks who want to try other perspectives within a distillery, which I love about that.
Anything else to say about sample one, or shall we move
Do you
along?
guys like it? I mean, would you
I
drink it?
do. I really do like it.
I think, Will, you're higher on it than I am right
Yeah.
now. But it's also, anytime you're starting and you have a first one and you have others coming, there's a little bit of like hold back a little bit. So we'll see when I revisit it.
Yeah. It
Brett?
it 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 reminds me this doesn't always happen where I'm reminded of like one specific other rum. There is another bottling of rum, and my guess on provenance and age when we talk about that is going to be based on that. There's another rum that was released. I forget exactly when. It's an independent bottling, and it reminds me a lot of that rum. So my guess is going to be that it's similar specs to that.
Got it.
Um, and that rum was like I liked it. I think I bought a bottle, um, and it lasted me a while. Yeah, not my favorite thing ever, and for me, more valuable, I guess, in the interesting factor than necessarily the like pleasure factor,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
But like I like to have rums like that around too. I definitely remember pouring it next to some other things once in a while to be like, this is
Yeah.
this like that? So
A
Mhm.
reference
definitely
rum.
interested in where that's from. Yeah.
Yeah. I would be surprised for me if this isn't my favorite one
Wow.
of the lineup just because I like it that much. Not like,
Right off the
I
bat.
mean,
That's a
I know where
bold
they're from.
statement. Yeah.
I
You
know, but
haven't
this
tasted these
rum is like
yet.
so exactly specifically my style of rum.
Mm.
Which honestly I wouldn't really, I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but for me, like, okay, when I was in my 20s, maybe early 30s, I had a regular at Rumba named Ian, and we loved him. He would come in all the time, drink all the rum, and he was great. He was a linguist, and he had to move to Serbia for a period of time and said, "You should come visit." And I said, "Sign me up." So I went to visit him, and I spent a couple of weeks in Serbia with him, and we found all of these cool eau de vies.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one that was my favorite that was made from quince, and this tastes like that. And I
Oh.
brought back like, back alley jugs, duct taped shut, secured in my suitcase. Please do not break. And I held those things so sacred and special to me because I love that flavor. And this reminds me so much of that, that just based on like the sense memory of like quince moonshine from Serbia, sign me up. I love this.
Turns out
Now
this
I
one's
can
not
see how
actually
it's going to be hard to top. It's going to be tough to compete with that sense memory, the other rums, I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, so I think that's why I'm saying it's my favorite because that's just like really strong in my head, and I love it. I wish I still had some.
I never like do numeral ratings for rums, but I'm kind of trying to do it for this just because I want to be able to compare these, have some sort of reference.
Yeah.
And I'm putting this
doing your own,
down
like, yeah.
on a
Doing
scale
your
of 1 to 10 at like an 8 for me, probably. So I really like it.
I did a completely unscientific scale. It's just it's vibe scale. So I wrote 6.8. Wait,
Okay.
and to be fair, I feel like six people can hear six and think like, wow, you hated it. All of the words I just said about it are true. I'm just like trying to actually use the entire scale, not just score everything between 7 and 10 or
Yep.
between 90 and 100,
Yep.
I'm
So
right with you
6.8
on
is
that.
solid. Yeah.
Brett, there's nothing more annoying than people that don't use the whole scale. I agree. I'm closer to the 6 of 10, but also same thing. It's not that I don't love it. I'm just trying to give myself some time and see how it comes up against. Like Will, this is really more about just me remembering
Yeah.
and trying to go through the exercise than trying to say like, here's my score for this, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Highly vibes
I'm
based.
noting your scores down.
All right. Number 2,
Number 2.
54.2% ABV, looks a bit darker
Yeah,
in
it does
color.
look a little darker. Yeah.
Mystery rum identity reveal number 2. This rum that we're about to try is a 13-year-old rum from the island of Mauritius.
We totally did great at the sticking to 5 minutes per sample, right?
We got to throw some
Oh,
cool
we had to-
stories and stuff in there.
We had to
Yeah.
establish some things as well,
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
Well, definitely different.
Yeah. Definitely a sweeter kind of nose, richer, I would say.
Darker.
Mm.
Ooh, I like where it goes on the end of the palate there.
It's
Kind of
cool.
takes like a sharp left turn.
It has some stuff in common with with that first sample, I feel, but like intensifies some of the other things.
That is a nice left turn at the end of the palate. Yeah, there's a specific distillery that turn on the palate reminds me of, and there's some other qualities that remind me of it as well. But I also kind of don't think it's that distillery because it would be a fairly familiar destination, which has me really intrigued now. Like, what is the lesser known distillery that's making me think of this, highly lauded one?
That's a fun thing about tasting stuff blind is it's like, oh, this reminds me of this, I don't know,
Yeah.
more common thing that you can get more easily, and then you find out it's from something completely different, and maybe
Yep.
it's harder to get or easier to get or more expensive or less expensive, and it's like, oh, now I'm a person who drinks this. But while you maybe wouldn't have even endeavored to taste something before.
Right, right. It's a great. That's why blind tasting is such a great exercise for people to do. And I know it's hard for some people to be able to pull that off. A lot of times we're buying a bottle, we already know what it is. But yeah, when you can, I think it is really good to do. Or even like local rum clubs, if they can set something up, it's a really fun idea and something that really does help expand your horizons in certain ways, like you're saying, Brett. I'm going to jump out with this one and say I like this one way better than the first one, just me. But this one's definitely more alluring for me. Starting to get on the nose. I'm going to take a reach here, but I think it's mace or clove that I'm getting. Like one of those spices that I usually get more things like nutmeg and, like baking spices that you are more commonly used. This one has something slightly different that I still get a baking spice, but it feels like one that's less used.
It's funny, I have literally a nutmeg sitting right here that my colleague Courtney, I forget where she got it, but she got some actual. Yeah, you have one too. I have
No,
it.
I gave it to her.
Oh, wait, you gave this? This is from you?
Yeah.
Oh, you gave a bunch to her. Oh, this is from
I
when you were.
I was just in Grenada and I sent a box
That's right.
of nutmeg to the badass ladies of PM Spirits.
That's right.
That's awesome.
She gave this, yeah, she gave this to me when I was down at the office a few weeks ago. And it's sitting back there next to a sample of 1959 Hamden.
Hey,
Kate Perry gives nutmegs to all her favorite people.
I do. I'm actually surprised I didn't send you some, Brett.
I forgive you.
Yeah, it almost sounded like a friendship ring.
Yeah,
Nutmeg or
exactly.
something like
That's
that.
what I was like, if you get a nutmeg from Kate Perry, you're in her circle.
Kate sends me a lot of things. I will not hold it against her that she did not send me a whole nutmeg, that I instead got it via Courtney.
It could have been part of her plan, Brett.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well.
Hell yeah.
In a completely different way. But I agree with you, John. There's sort of like this spicy kind of vibe on the nose, and then when you drink and it takes that left turn at the end that Kate was describing, it's almost like this leathery, passion fruity, like more of the fruit comes out. It's really good.
Very good.
To me, it's like a spiced orchard fruit cobbler. So
Yeah.
I'm getting like apple and pear skin and like some kind of peach fruit, but then there's that spice note there. So, bringing it to kind of like a spiced dessert kind of thing. I like to, when I can, like, summarize. I can write a million tasting notes or I can write a few, but I like when something like that comes to mind, like spiced orchard fruit cobbler, almost like how, I don't know, a menu description would be or something like that. I feel like it's sometimes easier to convey, a few words can convey a lot more than a lot of words can at times.
We should do this for all of our releases because this help with the tasting notes is really appreciated.
We're here for you anytime, Kate.
Thank you. You're making my text sheet writing so much easier.
I've got this one at like an 8.5 for me relative to my first, which was an 8. So
I went
really
8.75.
8.7.
I was tempted to give it the 9, but I'm just like, that's still early. I might rise it later. Let's see.
You guys can adjust. These aren't locked in.
That's true. That's true.
Edit.
I have 7.7. I'm a hard audience, I guess.
7.7.
Someone's got to bring in, the lower end of the scores.
If this was the Olympics, we would remove your score, Brett.
Fine.
And mine.
Oof. Have you guys smelled the third one yet?
Nope.
I'm about
Get into it now.
there.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, this I feel like is the first that
That
has
reminds me
what
of a
we're
specific
all
place.
gonna
Yeah.
think like this feels obviously like X.
Yeah.
Mystery rum identity reveal number 3. This rum we're about to try is a 6-year-old MOBA rum from South Africa.
But I mean, this, you know, over the past like 5, 6 years, there are definitely things that I've tasted that if it were blind, I would say that. I feel this is such like a difficult. Can we say what we think this one is, even though because I feel like we all will
It's
say,
it's pretty apparent. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm
yeah.
really
So
curious. Tell me.
What, are we going to say it all at the same time?
sure, one,
Let's do it.
2, 3,
MOBA?
Ham.
Jamaica.
Oh,
I was gonna say Hamden. Yeah.
Oh,
We all
okay.
said something different.
I said MOBA.
Well,
We
John-
did all say something different.
I said Jamaica and John said Hamden. So John and I were thinking Jamaica and Will's
Yeah.
thinking Hoba. I mean, to me, this reads as Jamaican for sure. I might,
It-
yeah, I think, and more Hamden necessarily than Worthy Park, but it also is same thing. It's like I've tasted rums from Mexico, Australia,
Yeah.
South Africa over the past handful of years. That like, yes, Hamden rum is very, very specific, but when you're tasting it amongst, you know, six other rums, I, I remember the first time, I think at this point 6 years ago or something, tasting like the first TCRL Australia and being like,
Mm.
it tastes like Jamaican rum, you know? Um, so it can be
I-
trickier.
For
I
me,
like your guess though, Will.
well,
I can see that.
there's this kind of gluey, cementy kind of
Yeah.
note that I get from MOBA rums a lot. That I get in this rum, and there is a lot of like we've talked to Robert Greaves and Sheldon from MOBA recently, and like obviously they're very inspired by a lot of the processes that are were invented in Jamaica. And they have their way of putting their own spin on them. So I can definitely see like the crossover. And I could be 100% wrong. It could be Jamaica. Hampton's one of those things where like, if there's a lineup of rums and of like funky or funky adjacent rums, and I taste them all, I can usually pick out the Hampton for sure. But in a blind tasting scenario like this, I might like mistake something else for it, when there's so many other possibilities.
Definitely has that like varnishy
Yeah.
Yes.
acetone.
Yep. But in a good way. I also am getting, just from the nose, I did just taste it now, and it is amazing. But from the nose, I was also thinking this doesn't feel like an ex-bourbon cask to me. Feel like there might be something else to this story. I could be wrong again, but I do feel like there's some, I don't know, ex-red wine type of thing, or maybe it's an ex-sherry, or it's not huge on that, but something else feels like it's there.
Yeah, and I agree on the palate. The nose reads very Jamaica to me. The palate reads almost like not traditional enough for most Jamaica, or at least, most say like
Yeah.
distillery bottled Jamaica, not something, aged somewhere else in some random barrel.
The palate took some turns for me away from the nose. Like the nose, I got that kind of gluey acetone, and also some like very like fruit candy kind of almost a little bit of sourness, that kind of thing. The palate, I got to drink it again.
Yeah, like to me, it smells like like on the nose, it's a very good rum. On the palate, it's pretty excellent.
Yeah, it is.
It's not always like that. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes I smell stuff and I'm like, this is gonna be the best thing ever, and you taste it and it kind of underwhelms. That can happen a lot for me with like unaged eau de vie, is you get like fruit eau de vie, you can get something and it just is so aromatic and really, really spectacular, and it just kind of underdelivers on the palate. Sometimes it's because the ABV is like, sadly low at like 40% or something like that, or sometimes it's just distilling fruit is hard. Distilling anything is hard, but I think it's probably fruit eau de vie that I have most frequently smelled something, been really excited to taste it, and been somewhat underwhelmed after that.
The palate for me confirms still it feels like there's something else with the cask bringing something to the party. I'm getting, kind of to take off from what Will said, like hard strawberry candies, which is interesting.
I don't know if this is just me, but it ends up feeling lighter in body on the palate than I was expecting. Like very mouth drying, like a little bit of astringency for me. I'll be really interested to see where that was from.
How do you guys rank these or this one?
I put it down at 8.4.
It's a 7.2 for me.
Wow. I'm going 9. I like this one a lot.
Cool.
Man, after the palate, I'm pretty like stuck on what I think it actually is. Because yeah, I think it smells a lot like Jamaican rum, and it tastes a little bit like Jamaican rum. But then you start getting into head games, and it's like, is that too obvious? Would Kate just send us a Jamaican rum,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
normal Jamaican rum?
I found
That's
that's where I can really go wrong with trying to guess stuff is when you try to
Second
like,
guessing.
yeah, you start thinking about like who sent it to you and like what their motives might have been, you know.
Number
Really
was-
impressive. That was very impressive.
Yeah. All right, 4 is 58.5.
I've got 58.8 on my
Sorry,
4.
58.8. That's right.
Okay.
I've been drinking rum.
Numbers start to get harder.
Man,
Max.
one thing I love about this is how completely and utterly different these first 4 rums have been. Like just
Agreed.
going off the nose of this, like so different. One after the other. Mystery rum identity reveal number 4. This one we're about to taste is a 20-year-old rum from Venezuela.
There goes our theory of her giving us 7 of the same rum at different ABVs.
Yeah.
She finished them in 7 different size micro barrels or with staves or
Exactly.
something.
That's exactly it.
So,
Taste the same rum with 7 different staves. Go.
This one's
look at
among the
color on that
darker.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this may be the darkest one in the bunch.
Oh,
So must be the oldest. That's how it works.
It
this
must be.
one's
Yeah.
familiar.
I suppose it does go without saying, but I just want to say it. None of these rums have any additives. There's no color or sugar or flavoring, glycerin added to any of these samples, as with everything in our portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's common knowledge, but maybe it's not.
It never
you
hurts
know?
to add
I
it.
just
You never
gotta-
know.
I gotta keep repeating.
Somebody out there is listening to this podcast for the first time and appreciated that.
Hey, got you.
Yeah, this one
one-
feels very familiar.
Yeah, it does.
This
It
one feels like
also-
the rummiest rum that we've had. Like this one feels more classic.
Yeah,
It's like what most people's expectations of rum would taste
which means out of your portfolio. Get it out. Shoot. Cut.
No, that means that it's a 35-year-old cane juice rum from Tahiti
Yeah.
that aged in a barrel made out of jackfruit imported
Yeah.
from Mexico,
That's exactly it.
and it just tastes normal. Very dry on the palate.
Yeah, definitely the most classic rum kind of profile, I think.
But there's a weird something in the palate. I have to go back.
The two or the one kind of different-ish thing for me is almost like pencil shavings, not in a bad way. It's a note I use a lot with mezcal, and I always have to, depending on who I'm like talking to or tasting with or whatever, I always make sure I say pencil shavings, but I mean that as a good thing.
Yeah, I had like wet cardboard, which I think is sort of in that pencil shavings family of
Yeah.
tasting notes.
I always use old books or
Yeah, there's a
must.
mustiness to
Yeah.
it. I wrote musty down
Yeah.
as well.
Yep.
Like library musty, not like, gym locker room musty.
Right.
Like blowing dust off of an old book.
Exactly. In the Third Age, in the year 5185, Sauron took his troops to Mordor. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You really got the Sauron pronunciation there.
I've
I'd
watched the
nothing
movie
less.
enough
Yeah,
times.
I'd expect nothing less from you.
Ian McKellen's delivery was spot on, so now I had to make sure I got that right.
Yeah, very like kind of roasty, nutty,
Yeah.
cask driven kind of profile.
Yeah.
The most of them so far, I would say.
Super good, but very familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's reminding me of I'm such a son's memory girl. It's reminding me of my grandmother's house. It's got this kind of
She just drank a
musty,
ton of rum.
cold basement thing with it's reminding me of how her linoleum floor tiles smelled mixed with Sunday breakfast.
That's some quality linoleum.
Quality linoleum.
Yeah.
With some of that kind of spacey, fruity, not pancakes. I mean, we're from New England, so it'd be maple syrup, of course. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of like it has some sweetness, it has some spice, it has some sort of musky and some sort of weird something.
To me, it's the one that probably has the most like kind of comfort food type flavors. Like I think maple syrup, yeah, that kind of fits in well with there.
Yep. Making my notes. Number 4, quality linoleum and maple syrup.
I want floor that smells like rum. It only smells like that when I spill. I try not to. This one,
Put in carpet, then spill it, and you'll never get rid of it.
I'm going 6.4 in this one.
I am not joking. I just wrote down 6.3. You're not the lowest anymore.
You wanted your turn being the bottom of the rankings.
I'm going 7.5. So I'm a little higher than both of you. I like what it is. I think if this were given to me in a different flight, I might really be enjoying, or on its own, I would be singing its praises. We've already had some really nice rums, though, so that's where I'm going to stay with it for now.
Yeah, to me, this is like very solid rum, approachable. But I think as an enthusiast that has a bunch of things in your cabinet, this may not add that much of an extra dimension to what you already have, especially compared to the other 3. Is kind of how I think about it.
Although, depending on where it's from and if they have a cool flag and it's going to look cool on the label, I mean, that's the important part.
100%. Yeah.
Definitely a factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rum is good, but what's your flag like?
Do you have a flag?
Ooh, we should power rank all the Flag Series flags.
Oh yeah,
that's another episode. I think when we did our best labels episode, maybe a year and a half or so ago, Flag Series rated very highly for both of us.
Okay, we should do posters, Flag Series posters.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that would be
maybe
sick.
for this release.
There we go.
There you go.
Sponsored by the Rumcast.
We'll pay for them.
Shut up, John.
Oh wait.
Are we moving on to number 5?
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're ready.
This
Everyone
one,
on-
this is our first kind of, well, not first big step up. I don't know. Once you break that like 61, 62 point, I feel like you're kind of going into a different weight class. So this one is 63.1% ABV.
Also got some
This is what it
decent
looks
color on it. Not quite as dark as the last one.
Mystery rum identity reveal number 5. This next one up is a 19-year-old rum from El Salvador.
Interesting.
Yeah, at first I wanted to say like, oh, another kind of familiar kind of note, but there's something almost like a little savory in there too.
It does remind me of the previous one. I just went and picked up, I'm holding them both now, the last one and this one, and I feel like they're in the same wheelhouse, and I can't wait to find out that they couldn't be more different in terms of specs or something.
Yeah. This one has a slight less must and a little bit more like doughy thing for me. My brain is reading Weller right now for some reason.
No bourbon vocabulary, John.
Sorry. Is that a... Oh, no. Ixnay on the Urban Bay.
It's like caramel and vanilla and toasted oak.
Yeah, smooth.
Real smooth, brother. It's like caraway, like rye bread caraway.
Ooh, that's an
Ooh,
interesting
fun.
pull. Yeah. Oh, goodness. This for me, this is even more comfort food. Cola. I'm definitely getting, I think.
Yeah, like some cinnamon. Yeah, in my memory, obviously if I had these rums next to each other, they might be completely different. But it's reminding me of a rum that, John, you famously like a lot, and I famously thought was fine.
Yeah. I think I'm heading that direction also.
This one's also just like, I feel, I don't know if it's the cumulative, having tasted 5 rums in the past 30 minutes now, or if it's the rum itself, but like this one feels a little trickier to pick things out of. Like for me, yeah, it's kind of that caraway, that rye bread, a bowl that had caramel in it but doesn't anymore, or something like that.
Brett, I'm having the same challenge as you. I'm not really getting anything beyond what I'm used to pulling out notes, like from a lot of different well-known distilleries. But I do feel like the sum is greater than its parts here. Like this is just it's a knockout. But to what Kate was talking about earlier, is it going to be different enough in terms of the expectation for rum drinkers?
Yeah, this one for me, like, I can't place where it could be from. It tastes like it could be from a million different places.
Yeah.
The closest I will get to a guess is I feel like, and this is partially based on how it tastes and partially just sort of like guessing within these seven rums. I feel like this might be from a kind of less than typical origin because we do know there are at least some of those in here, and so like it doesn't taste immediately of some particular origin. So it's the kind of thing that I wouldn't be surprised if, Kate's like, oh yeah, it's from I don't know, Canada, or it's from the
Yeah.
Philippines,
Yeah.
but it's not Tandue, or
Yeah.
or it's from Kazakhstan. Something.
I'm right there with you, Brett. Yeah, and I'll just say it since like we're kind of at the
Yeah.
end of giving our impressions. It reminds me of a rum from Spain that Roaming Road, an independent bottler in the U.S., released last year that John and I discussed quite a bit on the podcast.
See, interestingly, I'm thinking, I can see where you're going, but I'm thinking actually the other one that we have famously disagreed on that you're super wrong about, which is it's Philippines, right? It's the
Oh, the Luisita?
Luisita.
Yeah. It's those rums are kind of both in the same genre for me, and I think whatever this rum is, it fits in with that.
Yeah. So I think what we're figuring out here is we can all agree that this has a lot of cask-driven quality, right? And it was a very good cask. But in doing so, it's also losing a little bit of the inherent quality of maybe what the rum is and taking on a little bit more of that really nice cask, which is awesome to a lot of drinkers, including myself, but maybe does sacrifice a little bit of its identity in the process.
Yeah. I feel like I'll also call like not a bourbon barrel. Now, of course, it'll turn out to be that, but it doesn't read very typical bourbon barrel to me, at least.
It drank like a little hot for me.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It did.
Wow. All right, do we rate it?
I'm going 7.1.
I'm going to go 8 of 10.
5.9. Right, this one, rum 6. So we've got this one and then one more. This is 64.7% ABV. Ooh. Yeah. Huh.
Wow. Is this the sweetest nose so far?
Mystery rum identity reveal number 6. This one we're about to try is a 6-year-old rum from the island of Madeira.
Yeah. I mean, it's straight maple syrup, but not in
Yeah.
like a clone. But there's also, it's cool. It's simultaneously very sweet, and there's some kind of drying, like tanniny things in there, which is nice. The first time I noticed it smelled, yeah, it was just very like golden syrup,
Yeah.
pancake syrup, maple syrup.
Super syrupy, yeah.
For me, it was really butterscotchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's also this underlying note that reminded me of like butter in a savory context, like buttered popcorn or something like that.
Yeah. Butter for sure.
Butter for sure.
Not margarine. Butter.
Nope.
No.
This is no olive oil spread. This is
I don't know.
definitely butter.
At the same time, it might be like movie theater butter, you know?
That's synthetic butter.
Like liquid diacetyl or whatever.
Yeah.
It caramel corn too.
Yeah.
Because it has that's like the putting together that sweetness and the butteriness. I feel like landing on caramel corn, like real caramel corn. Like I grew up in Jersey and we'd go to the boardwalk and you get caramel corn there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Where it's got that buttery stuff. It's got some corny sweetness.
Candy corn.
And that like mapley sweetness, yeah.
I'm not sure how much complexity it has on the nose, but what is there feels like it like merits longer consideration to just like kind of take it in.
She's a wild ride.
Yeah.
That's what
that was a little bit of a roller coaster, I feel like.
Yeah. I feel unsure on raw material.
I have a guess. I'm going to hold it though.
Of like what it is specifically or where it's
raw
from?
material, sorry.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I lean one way between the usual molasses or cane juice suspects. I feel like that butterscotch, like there's that sweetness, butteriness that comes through, and there's some fruit in there as well. Like I get like some kind of funky fruit undertone.
I had written a couple minutes ago, fallen apple. I definitely have like a strong sense memory. I grew up, yeah, in the Northeast in New York, New Jersey, and that, when the apples fall and they are on the ground for a little while, and you get just natural rotting fermentation basically. But I like it a lot. I mean, it's basically eventually natural apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
But it's like a little bit of that for me, the kind of the apple that's been sitting off at the trunk of the tree for a couple weeks.
I do get that apple kind of quality, but yeah, not like super fresh, bright, crisp apple.
Yeah.
But that does have me leaning more in the cane juice direction, which is where I was already leaning.
That's what I was doing
beforehand.
Yeah. It's the nose, like that sweetness on the nose, I feel is super unusual for most cane juice rums. But basically everything else about it to me feels cane juice.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember. I mean, some like super old rum agricoles that have maybe like some bourbon barrel sweetness, but it's not like that. It's not that much. Like this doesn't read like it's sweet from a charred barrel necessarily, or from only a charred barrel.
I don't feel like it's a super old rum.
It could be a lot heavier on continentally aged, because some qualities I do get from like really long aged agricole.
But I get more of the what I get from younger age, because I still get some of that like that appley hay kind of quality on the palate. Like I can taste the cane a little bit, Watch it be a molasses rum now, of course. Like,
it would be a surprise. I think all three of us are on the cane juice path.
I like it a lot.
I do too.
It's nice, yeah.
I went 8.4, which is the same as what I had put for number 3 as top dog for me at the moment.
I'll say this one's 7.7 for me. I like it.
And what did John say?
I think I'm going to do 8.5.
8.5.
Wow. It's really good.
And Brett?
I went 8.4. I like it a lot.
8.4. Wow, you guys liked this one.
I'm so eager to go back and try the first rum, like the first couple, after now doing all these. We have one more, though.
This one was one of the most fun for me so far.
Agreed.
Yeah, very like unexpected, and
I feel like it takes a couple of sips to really like wrap your brain around it.
Yeah.
Like you need to like hang out with it for a while. This could be something that you could like spend an evening sipping through and pick out different things every time you discover it.
Yeah, you can't speed date that rum. It's got to be, you got to spend time with it. You got to, go to a movie, dinner, you got to talk, you got to hang out. Definitely.
Weekend overnight trip.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Number 7. This is our last rum. 65.5% ABV. Probably it's this or number 4 that's the darkest. Here's number 4. Yeah, 4 still I think is a little bit darker, but
interestingly, this is taking me right back to that one. I think it's number 4, number 5.
4 was the kind of musty
pencil shavings,
yeah.
Wet carpet, old books. Number 5 was more rye, caraway, Weller, in quotes.
Yeah, so probably closer to 4 for me. Or it could just be this is the 7th rum and it starts to get really hard.
Mystery rum identity reveal number 7, the final one. This is an aged rum from Belize that we forgot to get the total age statement of, but you can rest assured it was pretty long aged.
I don't think it's giving too much away to tell you that number 4 and number 7 are the same vintage, so they are close in age.
Okay.
So you're not wrong.
That explains everything.
I see some overlap, but I get a little bit more like fruit on this one than I did on number 4.
Yeah, uh, you're not wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's, oh, this is the same thing. It
Yeah.
just brought me back to that.
This one I kind of immediately do feel comfortable on the raw material
Yep.
Yeah.
as molasses,
Yeah.
but that means obviously cane juice. So.
I would back you up on that. Feels like a molasses rum.
Another tricky thing about like blind tasting in general is that there's, you have distillate driven rums and then you have barrel driven rums, and with so
Right.
many of these barrel driven rums, trying to call an origin is just an operation in futility.
Yeah.
Especially there's at least I think one distillery in the Dominican Republic, and it's Barcelo, and it's cane juice, but they
Cane
distill it to
juice.
like
Yeah.
96. Yeah, and they distill to like 96. So it's calling it cane juice. If you call it cane juice, you're lying or you're lucky. Like yes, it
Right.
is that, but it's entirely barrel driven.
Yeah.
That's such a random variable when you have something and it's like, oh yeah, this smells and tastes like Hamden, or this is very typical Central American bourbon barrel, and then something from the Dominican Republic is, if it's from Barcelo, distilled to a very high ABV, and if it's aging in the UK or something in whatever barrel, it's nobody's that good, but it makes it more interesting.
Yeah. Will,
This
go ahead.
go,
Will.
yeah, no, you go.
No, I just wanted to say I'm picking up on something that's more famously that you call out. So,
Call it out. Call it out, baby.
well, I'm kind of doing that because I'm not sure if you're not feeling it, then I'm definitely wrong. Is where I was trying to go, but I'm getting a little bit of the Greenwood type of thing that you sometimes get.
Interesting.
Like-
That hadn't occurred to me yet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say for me, I think it was number 4 that we were kind of like very classically
Yep.
rummy.
Yep.
And this one to me has now taken the top spot as classically
rummy.
Yeah. This is like the most
This-
classically rummy.
It's classically freaking great. Also,
It's really good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. Yeah, I see a little of what you mean with the green wood, John. I don't get it as strong as I do with Guyana rums typically, but I see where you're coming from. This one's kind of like chocolatey for me.
Yeah.
And there still is like some tropical fruit, maybe some coconut. Yeah, this one to me is one that feels like it could be like a nice medium longish aged Caribbean rum, even though I feel like it probably isn't from the Caribbean, just
Right.
judging, by what the series is going for.
Yeah.
But it really fits in that wheelhouse to me of like a well-aged Caribbean rum that's cask driven, but not like to the extreme cask driven molasses rum. Kind of sits there, and it's just like really enjoyable. It's like it's the highest ABV, 65.5, but to me, drinks a lot better than the number 5, the 63.1 that I felt was a little hot. Yeah.
It's just giving me such Guyana vibes, and we know it's not, but it's definitely giving me that.
Not one of the pot stills, though, right?
Probably not.
All right. Well.
What's your numbers on this one?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna go with 8 of 10. It's hard for me not to like this. The problem here is you've got rums in this lineup that are familiar, comforting, and then you put them up against something that's not familiar, that is a fun, wild ride, and
Yeah.
marrying those two together and trying to put them on the same scale is so hard.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that as a thing here, I'm just going to put it as an 8 of 10.
I wrote down the exact same thing. 8.
You need almost like a, what is it, like a scatter plot. I mean, not just blank out of 10. I need an axis for like whatever quality rating, and then an axis for like boring to interesting, because we should do that, because there are totally rums that are like just pleasurable and good, but they're simple, and then again there are rums like I think I put for number 1, super interesting, but like not necessarily as pleasurable. It would be fun to rank things like that, and then you see,
You're wrong.
seeing
Number
like,
one is so
where-
pleasurable.
and seeing where there are little groupings on a scatter plot. Maybe I'll do that.
I
Look at
think
that.
a lot in terms of like how often would I drink this, which isn't necessarily the best way to compare rums to one another, Because, like, for example, I think I would drink rum number 7 more often than rum number 6. However, rum number 6 is more interesting and more like I haven't had something like this than number 7 is. And so for that reason, I could see placing higher value on it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really tough to compare rums that are like trying to do different things. Kate, I agree with you on rum number 1, by the way. Like it's different, but it's awesome. Like I'm just going off the nose right now. But yeah, I would not say this is any less pleasurable. I really like that one.
Well, you and I have a very similar palate and a very similar tasting.
That makes me that makes me feel like 10 feet tall right now, Kate, that you said that.
I'm gonna go with 8.4 for this one, which is the third one I'll have put at 8.4.
Wow.
Now I'm probably doing just like meta,
You're gonna have to go a decimal place, Brett.
Interesting.
8.41.
Exactly.
No. I want them to be tied because but also like same thing. They're different kinds of 8.4 to me.
Right.
This one I feel does walk the line very nicely between like pleasure and interestingness, so that maybe that gives it some extra heft on the score.
Yeah.
But for me, I enjoy it as much as I enjoyed 3 and 6.
Yeah.
And I will say, not even having tasted it again, 1 is growing on me just thinking about it. So I can't wait to retaste that one.
I'm doing my first score correction now that I've gone back to 1, and I'm moving that up to 9 for me. I think that's my favorite of the bunch.
Wow.
I love the first one.
Wow, you're such a kiss ass, Will.
Well, you're correct.
You know what? I'm retasting. It's actually 10 out of 10.
I was going back to 2 as well, which I still really like. Yeah, I can't wait to find out what these are. Okay, any other? I've been kind of like retasting stuff. Does anyone else like feel like they need to make an adjustment in their impressions of any of these rums?
I'm making adjustments right now. I'm like a mad scientist going back to this one and that one and trying to adjust here.
I'm really curious about 3 now that we eliminated, or Kate reminded me that we had already eliminated the fact that we're not doing repeat countries, so it's not Jamaica.
Yeah.
I think I'm most curious about number 1 and number 6. And number 1, I'm wondering.
We're the same.
I'm wondering if it has like a non-traditional cask that it's aged in. Like it doesn't read just like an ex-bourbon aged rum to me.
Can't wait to, because one is the one that I feel most confident on.
What do you think it is?
So wrong.
What do you think it is?
Are we ready? Are we gonna do that?
Let's just start talking about it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
1, and I'm can't wait to be very embarrassed. I think 1 is from Mauritius.
I do too. I have that written down.
Nice. I think it's like 7 years old from Mauritius. Cane juice. I'm not gonna deign to choose a distillery on Mauritius. But to me, it reminded me a lot of, remember like the XXX series, the aficionados rums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Number 6 was from Mauritius. I think 6. Yeah.
It was the Le Bourdonnais, wasn't it?
I think so. I can't totally remember. It was quite divisive. I think it's one of the ones that's actually still in stock at Fine Drams. It was also a very large. It was on the younger 9 years, but there was more of it than most of the other ones, I think. I think that rum I'm looking. Yeah, that rum is still available. And I remember like not liking it, and then liking it, and not liking it, and then liking it, and it's like for me very, very interesting.
Yep. Brett, I wrote down Mauritius ? Maybe a Le Bourdonnais or Chamarel.
Nice.
There's aspects of it, John, that remind me a little like it could be related to the Le Bourdonnais that we bottled. There's just some crossover there for me.
I don't see it.
It's not as fruity as the one that we did, but there's just something that reminds me of it.
I'm just gonna be honest. I don't get as much of that with our Rumcast Mauritius, and for that reason, I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm in agreement that I think it's probably like Indian Ocean-y, and I'm gonna throw out some like the Seychelles or something like that. that, maybe it's something, because this one also feels like it might be a younger to me. You said 7, Brett. I feel like I want to go younger.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I think it's in that like 6 to 8. The one that we did, John, was like 5.5 years.
Yes.
I think it could be in that kind of wheelhouse.
Yeah.
At the same time, At the same time, the transcontinental Mauritius, I think 2017, that rum is only 3 years old, but well, first of all, it looks much older.
It's a great rum.
That's a Graze rum,
Yeah.
right?
I love that rum. It's
Yeah.
so good. I think it's, I mean, like for the price too, whatever. I'm the person who sells it for a living, but still, I do think that is the case. I think that one is from Gray's.
Yep.
But that rum tastes and looks much older than it actually is.
I'm pretty sure when that rum came out and John and I did our like end of the year episode where we talk about our favorite rums, I think that was in some category, rather like value rum or rum under X amount of years. That was a great rum, like super accessible, young age, but like when you drink it, you're like, it didn't need to go any longer, really.
Yeah. I think that's such a sleeper in our portfolio. One that kind of gets passed over, but man, like for the quality for price is stellar.
Agreed.
And it's, I think, 48%. Or no, that was 50%. Yeah, that's a great rum.
I did bring up my rating for this one a little bit, going back to it. I do think it's better than I thought. I still don't think it's my favorite because it has that floral quality, which is something that's not my most desired thing. So I ended up with like a 7.5 out of 10 with this one, which still puts it among the lower ones for this tasting. But I still do like what it is. And think it is interesting. It scores high on the interesting scale, Brett. Yeah.
For me,
I brought my
It's
score up to,
a 6.8. Are you comfortable with that?
I brought it up to 7.6.
For me, this one sits perfectly at the intersection of interesting and drinkable.
It is drinkable. Give you that.
Like this is an interesting rum that I would have that wouldn't sit in the cabinet for 5 years. Like I would finish it before then. It's the only one of the samples that I've totally finished so far.
When do we get the reveal?
So this one has an average. I'm going to give you the average of the score as we go through with your adjustments of 8.03. This is a 10-year-old rum distilled in 2016 from the island of Reunion.
Oh, damn it. I was so
Distillery
close.
begins with SA.
I picked Seashells instead for some stupid reason instead of Reunion. Nice.
Wait,
So-
is this a cane juice rum, Kate?
It's from Savannah, so I guess they do both. But yeah, I would assume this is a cane juice rum.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I have not had a Savannah rum like that one before.
I don't think I have either. But interestingly, I've also not been as high on them as you have, Will. So that tracks with the normal.
Interesting. In my memory, you're more of a Savannah Her guy than I was.
Oh, no. Her isn't all its own thing.
Different
Sorry.
animal,
Okay.
Yeah.
I also just feel like aged. I mean, the same way with a lot of agricole. I haven't had a ton of aged Reunion, to be fair, but I feel like it's apples and oranges, or apples and cactuses in terms of comparing aged Reunion,
Yeah.
to unaged Reunion.
Well, after tasting that, I would like more aged Reunion, please.
That's a fun one.
The high S Union rum, the HERRs really like dominate people's perception of what that is. But I mean, that's like the smallest thing that the distillery outputs. So there's so much more complexity and availability.
It's the IPA
Available.
of rums in a sense. It's like, oh, I don't like beer. Well, you've only had, a quadruple IPA, and there's an entirely different world. Or it's like,
Yeah.
also, I don't know, I don't like rum. Well, you've only had Sailor Jerry, and you basically haven't had rum.
Yeah, I mean that rum is nothing like Savannah Her.
No.
It's not like that rum at all. But okay, well, Mauritius is geographically close to Reunion, so I don't feel horrible about about the miss there.
In terms of number 2, are you guys comfortable with your ratings? Will gave it 8.5, John 8.75, Brett 7.7.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
My spiced orchard fruit cobbler.
I can take that.
I'm good with my score.
Yeah, this was the mace, leathery passion fruit. I like that description a lot. Fruit cobbler.
I have no idea where this one's from.
I was just about to say the exact same.
I think it's a molasses rum, and I think it probably has at least 8 or 9, maybe 10 plus years age on it, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got no guess either.
I wrote molasses and maybe French oak. That maybe is just me trying to think I know what I'm talking about more than I do, but I
could
thought
see
it, so I went for it.
Yeah, I could see it. Are we forcing ourselves to give a guess?
So none of us have a guess. That's interesting.
What do you think?
So this means it's going to be from the U.S. or something.
I don't think it's.
I have no idea. I'm not going to guess.
Well, you said it's not from any countries that Flag Series has already done, so I still feel like we are pushing towards the Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of something along there of what I know.
I get a like a licorice note in here as well. For this one.
This one, along with 7, I felt similar and like not totally knowing, not feeling like there's an obvious place to pinpoint it. And actually, for both, I wrote Southeast Asia only because palette-wise, I'm less familiar than Caribbean rums and some other rums, and I have had plenty of Southeast Asian rums that have quite surprised me, both in quality, but also just like complexity for what they are. I mean, not to just whatever shill element V rums, but like Shakara, the specs on Shakara, molasses, column still, yeah, they're not the things that jump out to like a nerd necessarily on paper, but I remember the first time tasting it being like, this tastes like a blend of pot and column. It tastes like a rum that could be from Barbados or Guyana. So I think instinctively,
when the Shakara came out, everyone was like, "Is this 4 Scores in?"
Yeah.
And Kate and I, have recently tasted the Shakara 15, and I felt the same way again, where, again, not necessarily the most impressive thing on paper, but like I was very, very pleasantly surprised by how great it tasted. And so I guess, yeah, instinctively I go Southeast Asia if it's something that I can't figure out, but is good in a way that I feel like almost overperforms its specs, if that makes sense.
I'm just going to take a wild guess and say the Philippines, but I truly have no idea with this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a shot in the dark also. I'm going to say like, one that I know hasn't been done yet, like Laos, which I have no idea if they're even making rum, but
a true shot in the dark.
Yeah, I know a friend of a friend has
there you go. Hey, you never know.
Kate, how wrong are we?
It's really funny because, I think you said that on the first time tasting through these that you felt like 1 and 2 were kind of related.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of a link.
A little bit of a link. And it's funny because this one is just from the next island over. This is from Mauritius, which you guys were so from Mauritius. And then no one pulled that for number 2.
That's funny.
My God.
I was like, they're going to nail number 2 then if they know Mauritius so well.
Hilarious.
Gave us too much credit.
What's the age on that?
This is a 13-year-old rum from Mauritius.
Okay.
Do we know barrel type or not at the moment?
I do not at the moment.
Do we know which distillery it is?
Are we allowed to say which distillery it is?
Yeah, I'm not really allowed to say for these rums, but you could use your imagination.
Mm-hmm. We have really good imaginations.
Really good imaginations. Yeah.
So close. 1 rum off.
So close. And this one comes at an 8.31 average score.
Wait, so that wasn't the first one 8.3?
8.03.
Oh, 8.03. Okay.
Significant digit.
I didn't realize we were doing 2 decimal points, but that makes sense.
Well, we have to.
We have to, yeah.
Come on.
Gotta be scientific here.
What are we, rookies? All right. So are we...
moving on.
Yeah.
This one will be fun. Number 3.
Number
this
3.
Really interesting.
I'm just sticking with MOBA for this. The only other thing I think it could be is maybe some Australian distillery that's messing around with high ester stuff.
Yep.
Because it doesn't read like a
sort of garnishy, acetone, strawberry candy, gluey, cementy.
It doesn't read like a Renaissance rum to me.
One thought that popped for me, having tasted some like high ester Mexican rum recently, thinking that it could maybe be something like that, but I haven't tasted any that taste aged in this manner. So I mean, MOBA does feel like a good guess.
I agree. I hate it, but I agree that I have to go MOBA here with Will. Once you put that in my head, I was like, yeah, I freaking kind of see it.
Wait, do you hate it because it's me, or do you hate it just because we're all in agreement?
¿Por qué no las dos?
Will, you'd given this a 7.2, John a 9.
Yeah.
And Brett an 8.4. Are we comfortable with those numbers?
I brought it down a little bit to an 8.75, which is probably meaningless in all of this, but I did. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep mine the same.
So we're an 8.12.
Oh, what a crime that's ahead of the first rum.
I know. I'm just such a sucker for that first rum, though. And Will was the original correct, and then you guys all jumped on the bandwagon of South Africa.
Well done. Well done.
Okay, I can live with getting 1 out of 7 right. As just one origin in there, that's enough for me. I can go home with my pride, some semblance of it. What's the age on this, Kate?
This was 6 years old.
Okay.
Distilled in 2020.
That sounds right. And
So
just, do we know any cask
cane
information?
Juice, pot still rum.
No. Okay.
Yeah, there's just something about that thick, gluey. It reminded me of the Sheldon rum.
Really?
When I noticed it, even though I think it's probably because the Sheldon rum is like the cut of the cut of the cut of the cut or whatever. Like it's not what they distill every day, so I'm sure it's not the same rum. But I guess that's just part of like their signature for me. And I think I'm a little sensitive to whatever that is, which I'm a little lower on this rum than you guys are. And I know full well me rating this a 7.2. For some people, this will be like a 10 out of 10, I think. And I like MOBA rums, but I tend to not love them as much as other people do sometimes. So that's pretty consistent for me.
I think there's a mood for MOBA rums.
A mood for MOBA.
Yeah. And, I think I'm...
MOBA mood.
MOBA mood. And I'm in a MOBA mood more often than you are.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I get that.
It sounds like an ad campaign. Like, I don't know. That would be like cigarettes in the 50s or 60s or something, except rum in the 2020s. Make it a MOBA mood.
Yeah.
Or like make it a Centauri, the Centauri thing.
Yeah.
All right, number 4.
Number 4.
This was the sort of graphite, wet cardboard, library, old book, musty, but kind of more of a classic rum profile. The most classic until number 7 showed up. Will, you were at a 6.3, John a 7.5, Brett a 6.4.
Good with that.
Keep it there, yeah.
I'm gonna go up from a 6.3 to a 6.8.
He felt the weight of Brett and I's ratings.
No, I just
wanted to pull closer.
I tried it again, and I really like this one. I think it drinks really well. For the proof, it's got nice flavor, very drinkable, approachable. It's a really solid one.
I was thinking maybe cane juice, because the pencil shavings thing for me often is that, but I'm gonna say molasses and feel like Central or South America and maybe a wine barrel. Again, looking forward to being totally wrong.
Those are great guesses. I think molasses too, and I was thinking Latin America.
If it's Venezuela, I'm gonna cry a little bit. But I feel like it's more like Philippines, actually. I don't know why, but that's where I'm going to it. Again, probably totally wrong, but there's something familiar about it from the one Philippines rum that I've had in the past, which is silly to say, but that's kind of where my head is taking me to. So if you can't be true to your head and your heart, what else can you be?
You got to go with it.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got?
Gone with your gut there, John. Venezuela.
Son of a bitch. Well,
That's a really nice Venezuela rum.
It is. It's also my rating was the least out of all of these for that rum, was it? Or at least tied for it?
7.5, yeah.
Yep.
The same that you gave number one.
Well, so one
old
was
is-
my other least favorite, but I think there's something about Venezuela rum that it doesn't super agree with me. That said, this one is the best one I've had.
How old is this one, Kate?
2006. So
Wow.
20 years.
Wow.
That's
20 years.
I mean that I wouldn't have guessed that old, but that based just on flavor, and like the nose, but it does kind of track with it being cask driven Central or South American rum.
And
Should've
that kind of musty quality, I think, is
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like drying on the palate. It like wicks away from my palate in a way that is very consistent, now that you've said it, with the other Venezuela rums that I've had.
See, that's how I felt
It is
about
super fun to taste.
number 5.
It is super fun to taste older, unadulterated, single barrel Central and
Yeah.
South American rums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Like
did
that PM cask that you guys did of the
That's like-
Guatemala. Super
yeah, that was
cool.
a 2008 Guatemala, 14 years, I think. And it's just like you wouldn't. It's some of the only ways to taste, that style of rum in this different manner. That one I think was like 57% ABV, single barrel, 2008, and that was part of the reason we picked it, was because it was delicious and super high on the interesting factor.
Okay, what was our average for this one?
6.9.
Nice.
Number 5?
Number 5. So this one was kind of familiar, kind of savory. John described it as Weller-like, rye bread, caraway, cola, cinnamony. Unsure of the provenance. You guys said maybe Spain or something like that. Will, you're at a 5.9, John an 8, and Brett a 7.1. Are we comfortable with those?
I'm gonna bring mine up to a 7.5. I think it's a pretty delicious rum.
It is a really good rum. I'm good with an 8 for now.
Savory.
I'm gonna stay with mine.
Wow. Just bringing us down. So
And this one,
this
I'm going the like non-standard origin.
All right, I'm going to say it twice in a row here because I still feel like this is giving me that like Philippines-y vibe.
Just keep going with it until you get it. That's what I should have done with Mauritius earlier.
I'm learning from your mistakes.
Your average is a 7.13, and this is from El Salvador.
Oh, interesting.
That makes sense to me. Because the Spain rum to me, not just because they're both regions speak Spanish, but it reminded me of a lot of Latin American rums that, column still, light, very cask driven. And that's what this one feels to me. Although that kind of like rye caraway vibe is interesting. But yeah, that one's just not my rum. I'll accept I'm the one bringing the average down there, and that's fine.
I like it.
It was distilled in 2007, so it's definitely got a lot of barrel influence as a 19-year-old rum from El Salvador.
Wow.
I really like it. And it's cool to try sometimes we were kind of commenting on earlier that's unadulterated from there and really lets the rum shine. I like it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of rum from El Salvador. There's that brand,
Kiwatan.
Iwatan, that's right.
Mhm.
And I think Ron Colon is from there too. I don't know if it's from
Yep.
the same distillery.
I don't either, but yeah, Ron Cologne sounds right. Yep.
Rolling Fork has bottled some El Salvador rums.
They have.
They have one that's like, I think they aged in some wine casks or like fortified wine casks maybe. That's like very barrel influenced and super drinkable, but like extremely different from this rum. Okay, can we talk
this
about
feels
6?
Like such a good testament to the phrase that I feel like a broken record saying all the time, but I'm always telling people like you can't tell me that you don't like rum because saying that is like saying I don't like sandwiches. Like the diversity in the flavor profile and the experience is so broad and deep. I mean, just in these 7 samples, like it's so evident that rum is just the most diverse category of spirit
Yeah.
on the planet.
Agreed. Yeah, if you
That's
don't like sandwiches, I can't be friends with you.
The sandwiches
Right.
comparison is really good. I've never thought about that, but yeah, if you don't like rum, you don't like sandwiches. I'm gonna start saying that to people.
I'm really interested to see what this 6 is because this is
Yeah.
probably the most interesting for me of the bunch and super just fun.
I'm interested to see where you guys think this is from. So this was kind of a roller coaster, a lot of like butterscotchy, caramel corn, maple syrup drying, stemmy, earthy. Will, you gave it a 7.7, John an 8.8, and Brett an 8.4. Any changes we want to make there?
No.
I'm gonna go up to 8.5 simply to make it 0.1 higher than anything else because I think I'm realizing this is my favorite of the bunch, so I'll give it the number 1 spot.
Fair.
I'm gonna keep mine the same, and I have a specific origin guess for this.
So do I. You go first.
I think this is from Australia, and what it reminds me of is an aged version of Killick rum. Because the unaged Killick rum that I've had has this buttery, popcorny vibe to it that I get from this. And I'm probably totally wrong, but that's just like the connection that I'm making in my brain. So that's what I'll go
It
with.
does. I don't feel confident enough to guess an actual origin, but I do feel like it is going to be something like that, where it's a somewhat contemporary, new, modern, young distillery doing some different weird things.
Yeah.
Whether it's fermentation time or raw material or in the aging. It feels very non-conventional and not in a gimmick. No, not in a gimmicky way. But for me, that does kind of rule out anything one might consider like a heritage distillery or something like that.
Yeah, I think those are good guesses. I can see the Australia connection. I feel like just to be different, I'll go elsewhere, but I definitely see where you're coming from with that Killick comparison. Or even just some Australia rum has a little bit of a unifying identity, and I think I understand where you're coming from with that. Oh man, I'm thinking like South Pacific-ish. But that's really, it's more of a shot in the dark than anything else. I haven't tried there was a Tahiti rum that I tried recently that it wouldn't surprise me if this was similar, but that's such a long shot that I'm having trouble doing that. So I think I'm going to go with, we know that there's New Zealand distilleries.
Yeah.
Apparently. So I'm just going to throw that out there. We'll do that.
I guess it could also be, I mean, I doubt it's this, but that kind of newer, younger distillery doing fun things. I feel like there's a bunch of those popping up in Scotland.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
That would be a good looking flag on a label.
it would be.
Isla Rum Distillery.
So your average score here was 8.23. So this is the second most liked so far. This is a 6-year-old rum from the island of Madeira.
Oh,
wow. It makes so much sense now.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does actually, because the Werther's type of quality.
The butterscotch. Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck,
Yes.
how did we not think of that?
Well, I have to say, I haven't liked many Madeira rum so far. Like famously, this is my favorite so far of the bunch.
Is this an Orizinho? Is that disclosable?
I just have the cast codes. I'm also like trying to decipher where I think the cast codes are from. I'm not sure. I'm not confident enough to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That does make so much sense, though. Yeah.
This is the most frustrating of reveals. Where like
Yeah.
as soon as you hear it, you're like, of course that's what it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
just the frustration of blind tasting. Like once you hear it, you're like, of course, that makes total sense. And if I had known that, I would have gone into it being like, yeah, this is a very typical rum of that place.
It's so like obviously a Madeira when I like go back and nose the glass now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of islands
Also-
to keep up with, you know.
That's also the Portuguese flag. is a good looking one, or if they go with the actual Madeira flag, which is like blue and yellow with a red and white cross on it. That's
Yeah.
also a good
So we're
one.
just gonna scratch the whole rating of the tastings and just go through and rate their flags.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll,
that's
we'll
the
choose
third.
that way.
That's the third axis. So you have
Flag.
pleasure.
There you go.
Have you have interestingness, and then you have how good is the flag, and that
How
Yeah.
good is the
that can bring
flag?
them
Yep.
Totally.
Over time.
Ugh.
Fourth
Okay,
dimension.
that's the I thought the Mauritius reunion reveal
Yeah.
was frustrating. This is the most frustrating reveal so far.
Agreed.
But let's see what number 7 is.
All right, number 7, kind of fruity, chocolatey, coconutty, took the place of the rummiest profile from number 4. You guys thought this one was the sort of more classic rum style. Will, you gave it an 8. John gave it an 8, and Brett gave it an 8.4.
I'm going up a little bit.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go up to an 8.25.
It's good. It's another very interesting, very delicious. Both of those
It drinks.
scales.
It drinks so well for its ABV as well.
Yeah, it really does.
And if you remember, I did tell you a hint that this rum and number 4 were the same age. So this is also a 20-year-old rum.
Oh, that's right. I'm gonna stay with I give this an 8. I'll stay with that.
I gotta go back to my Southeast Asia thinking with this.
Yeah.
Partially because there hasn't been an Asian one in here yet. And again, because it feels confounding trying to figure out what it is, especially knowing what it isn't. My first thought, which then got ruled out, was Fiji. Some of the like older South Pacific rums definitely I feel like fall into this mildly industrial, but also there's like a nice sweetness and fruit, and just very interesting and complex. Southeast Asia or the Dominican Republic.
I have 2 very similar origins in mind, which my first thought was Belize, actually, as like the Latin American potential destination. But I do think there's Southeast Asia potential, and it actually does remind me somewhat of a longer aged Shikara rum. I see some similarities there.
Agreed.
So yeah, I would say Thailand or Belize, one of those 2. But yeah, I think like a molasses column still long aged rum. It's really delicious.
Yeah, and especially if it's like a single cask picked, like many are, for it being particularly singular, and kind of out of character of some others. I could see it being like this was going to be Shikara or something,
right?
Bottled it on its own. Yeah.
But Europe had a Thailand flag series release, right?
That's okay. That's allowed though.
That's allowed. Okay.
Right, we're not ruling out.
Yeah, they had Europe
We
had
just
an
ruled out
8.
U.S. release.
No,
twice,
we're
so
not
it's
ruling
okay.
out European. Yeah, just
Right.
Europe release.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Europe does their own thing. That's their business.
Yeah. Because I can't help but agree. I feel like the Thailand connection here feels pretty strong.
Yeah, Thailand. I don't know. I don't think I've had any Indonesia rum. I know there's been a flag series Indonesia.
India's
Southeast
been
Asia.
making rum for a long time.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's 20 years.
Yeah.
Do we have an average score for this one?
Yeah, this one took 3rd place at 8.21.
It's really good.
So Mauritius was the highest score at 8.31, Madeira at 8.23, and Will was correct with Belize.
Oh,
Wow.
hey.
Damn,
No way.
well done, sir.
That's a good Belize rum.
It is a
Yeah,
good Belize rum.
I think that's the best Belize rum I've ever had.
I
I
can't
feel like
believe
some
it.
of- Hey.
Nice.
Sorry.
I want to say that's the best Belize since the first Holmes Key Belize that came out, probably 4 or 5 years ago, was phenomenal, and this one to me is in that kind of territory. It's really good.
Yeah.
So I guess we could say, well, I don't know if we can disclose, but like it's pretty much from Travelers.
There's only one distillery. in
Yeah,
Belize.
exactly. Yeah.
I think that one's a safe bet. Cool.
So the group top 3 is Mauritius, then
Madeira.
by a
Madeira.
nose Madeira, and then Belize right behind it.
What's
And
4 and
then
5?
fourth is the first rum, the Savannah.
4 is Reunion.
Yeah. And then we've got
5
Venezuela.
is
Or no,
5 is
no.
Salvador, El Salvador.
No, four is MOBA at 8.12.
Oh no, you're correct.
And then
yeah.
Reunion at 8.03. Then El Salvador, then Venezuela.
I mean, these are all good rums for sure.
But
They are.
the correct order.
Didn't expect any, bummers for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I mean that Venezuela last place in theory, is a very interesting rum.
Yeah, I think there's something for everyone in this lineup. Like, to me, the Venezuela and El Salvador are the ones for people who really enjoy the like cask driven rums, like very approachable. I think the Belize falls in there as well. But to me is like the best example of those. And then you have like the Madeira and the MOBA are kind of like the kind of funky, out there, a little bit wacky kind of rums. And then the Reunion and the Mauritius are very different, but not in the like funk kind of way, if that makes any sense. But I mean, the correct order is still the Reunion number 1. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on that.
Nope.
Thank you, Will, for the clarification, because you are correct.
Yeah. Wait, so how many of these
none
can y'all bottle?
We could do up to 5 if we want to.
Yeah.
So Reunion could just make the cut. We'll see. We'll see what we think. How much you bribe us.
If Reunion doesn't make the cut, I'm gonna riot.
Knowing those provenances, would you agree with the order if you're adding in the sort of regionality factor in sort of context of what is flag series and sort of that discovery of places? Is there something that like maybe it wasn't the favorite, but you think it would be people would really like to try something from a different place? Would you swap the order all depending on regionality?
I do. I'll jump in and say for like the MOBA, it's really good. And I think there's been very similar rums released. So if you're trying to go with the flag series and say, hey, this is emblematic of what, the best of what's available, great, do that. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more different and interesting, then I think people have had similar rum from MOBA before. So then it drops a little bit. So it depends on what you're going for.
I agree that like South Africa, again, quite delicious. Not necessarily that different from, like you said, some other rums that are around from both South Africa and not South Africa. Whereas like the El Salvador, I feel like bumps itself up a little bit by way of being a 19-year-old rum from El Salvador, single barrel, unadulterated. For the on that the interesting factor. If it were up to me, which it's not only up to me, I think I would bottle like Madeira, Belize, Mauritius, Reunion, El Salvador, something like that. And again, the Venezuela is great, but I guess probably if I'm comparing it to like El Salvador, I think that's more interesting. And the South Africa, again, for all the same reasons we just said, where it's like it's very good, but there are several other rums that exist that are quite similar.
And there's another factor here, which is the flag series itself. It's there's been 3 or so in each wave before, 2 in the first one, I guess, for US. But the idea that you might be able to get one that is very special and unique, but may cost you a little bit more, versus one that is unique and special but maybe is more affordable is a really interesting and fun idea as well. Like, you get to still be a part of it with a Madeira 6-year-old that maybe is a little bit in a different price range than a 20-year-old Belize, or whatever else it may be. So there's other factors that you do have to consider here beyond just the rum itself that I think would, if I were really doing this, if I were really saying, okay, I'm going to release, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 of these, I would want to consider that because none of these rums were bad, straight away. So it's not just about the rum itself. It's also about how do I create an offering that gives different, kind of experiences, but also that is different price points maybe a little bit. So there's some that are more accessible. All of that plays into it.
And I think kind of tapping back into that whole like educational aspect,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be hard pressed to find a kind of the cooler way to say, explore rum with a bourbon drinker or something than being like, here's a rum from Mauritius, Madeira, Belize, Reunion, and El Salvador.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the debate between Venezuela and El Salvador, because I rated the Venezuela higher and I like the Venezuela more, but there have been more long-aged Venezuela releases from IBs in recent years than there have been El Salvador ones. And I also recognize, like, John loved the El Salvador, for example. So I think it'll have its fans out there. And so, like, I would probably go with the El Salvador over the Venezuela, even though I personally enjoy the Venezuela more. But to me, the must-dos are the Reunion, Mauritius, and Madeira. The Belize is also very, very good. But those are the ones in terms of, like, it's harder to get those rums. Like a 10-year Reunion rum, we just haven't had very many of those single cask released in the U.S. Mauritius at 13 years, there have been some, but not one like this, I don't think. And then the Madeira one, we just haven't had a lot of aged Madeira released in the U.S. either. So to me, I think there's a rum nerd audience for those for sure, that I think will really appreciate those rums. And then like the 20-year Belize is like mass appeal. I think you'll have rum nerds that like that. I think you'll have people that are newer that really gravitate to that rum. So
Yeah.
I definitely can be guilty of shying away from rum from Belize just from having had a handful that are not terribly interesting. But this I think bucks that trend for sure.
I like that question, John. What would you bottle?
I think I'm going to go with the Madeira, the Belize. I'm going to do 4, the El Salvador and the Mauritius.
I'm never going to forgive you for leaving out the Reunion.
I'm just being honest. You're never going to have a panel that agrees on everything. The Reunion
he could have done 5 and he chose 4.
I know. He did that just to fuck with me.
Maybe a little bit.
Cool, guys.
Kate and I and PM and LM&V talk behind the scenes and decide what we're actually going to bottle.
Yeah, we got to do the real work.
We're going to only do one. We're just going to bottle it.
Okay, so the Reunion then. That's fine. I'm good with that.
Nope, just Venezuela.
I think that this process was really fun and really enlightening, because I'm imagining, had I sent these labeled to Brett without this sort of discussion, I think that we would have had a very different conversation just with our sort of preconceived notions of what we think these places taste like and what we think the interest in the market would be, because there are definitely some surprises for sure.
Yeah.
And I love kind of taking off the mask of preconception and just going into a spirit, not having any idea what it is or where it's from, just knowing the ABV and the unadulterated color is really cool.
I'm just picking up the empty glass of the Reunion rum and just smelling it.
He just wants to throw that in there. And it's fun, At the end of the day, this is a super fun thing for us on our side here of just rum enthusiasts and having fun drinking rum, and that's ultimately what we're about, is that and education, of course. And I think this was very educational in a lot of different ways than we normally talk about. So there's a lot of value in, as we mentioned earlier, blind tasting and just going through things in a way that you don't usually do. I love it. I'll go back to saying that even the Reunion was a really good rum. Well, all of these were very good.
They were. They were.
There wasn't a bad one in the bunch. Like, sometimes you go through a flight and you're just like, nope, that's not for me. That didn't happen to me here at all. And I would love, any of these to be in the U.S. market. And ultimately, I know what you, Kate, and Brett will choose will be for good reasons with our feedback involved, which is very fun and awesome for us. But also that there's a lot of other angles that you have to consider when you're going to release these things.
Yeah, no, thank y'all for including us in this. It really was a blast to go through these. Yeah. And we want to make clear to those listening, not making any promises on which ones will or will not be available in the U.S. There's other factors that must be checked on that first. But we can say, like, some of these will probably be available in the U.S. Is that safe?
Yeah.
Barring some extreme unforeseen circumstance where the entirety of the warehouse where these are stored collapses or something.
Knock on wood.
Then we'll just have to do a different tasting next week, or whenever.
Next week. Oh, God. Thanks for having us and tasting with us.
Absolutely. I'm going to be on pins and needles until I find out whether this reunion rum is coming to the U.S. or not. So please keep us in the loop.
We will.
If I have anything to do with it, Will.
And she does.
Yeah. I'm feeling good knowing that you do, in fact, have something to do with it. So that's comforting. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. Yeah. This was a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rumcast. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these releases. If you have them, which sounded the most interesting to you? Which would you most look forward to? Which origin would you love to see more releases of from independent bottlers? Send us an email, host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can find us on social media. John, where can they find us?
At the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. You will find us there. You will find us posting about our new episodes when we release them. You know what I just noticed, Will, is we don't really post our bonus episodes.
That's
we never
true.
even put those on for people. So,
we got to plug the Patreon more.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, I don't want anybody to be like, hey, you'd love to get this, wouldn't you? Well, you have to buy the Patreon. It's not our deal. But I would like to let people know, like,
it's out there.
Yeah, it's out there if you want it, right? Nobody's forcing you, but it would be cool if you're interested in it. Yeah, join the Patreon, get the extra bonus episode and all the other happy hour stuff that we do. It's great.
All the goodies. Yeah. We got some more exciting stuff coming up soon, so stay tuned. But with all that said, we'll be back soon. In the meantime, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.